Yes, I think we're live.
Okay, awesome. Then I'll start. Hi, everyone. As part of Activist Handbook Thematic Month, Digital Challenges for Activists, Joppe and I will get into some of the digital challenges that we face as activists at Activist Handbook. This live stream is part of our thematic months, in which we organize activities around a relevant theme each month. And this month, we cover the tools chapter. We have writers writing about digital challenges, podcast coming up in collaboration with the May 1st movement. So that's exciting. And today we will give a sneak peek into two digital tools that we are developing with Activist Handbook. If you are watching this live, you can join the conversation through the chat. So don't hesitate to ask questions. But let me introduce myself first. So my name is Van. I am the events coordinator at Activist Handbook and organize the thematic months together with Sita and Paulina, two other Activist Handbook volunteers. And hi, Joppe. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. It's really nice to be able to talk about this today. So I'm Joppe. I'm a climate activist from Rotterdam, and yeah, for Activist Handbook, I'm project facilitator, but I'm also one of our web developers, and developing various cool tools for activists. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to tell you a bit more about that.
Awesome. Well, let's get started immediately. So, what would you say are the most relevant digital challenges that activists nowadays face nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies, all right. For activists in the global north, right, where we have good internet connections, the main challenge is that everything online is really owned by big tech, right? Facebook, Google, um, and that means that whenever we use these tools, it is at the cost of our privacy. It's all free, but we're just selling our private data. Um, and in addition, these big organizations, of course, have no intention to change the world order or anything. So the algorithms that they have on their social media platforms, right? They are not particularly useful for activists. Um, a lot of censorship happens, or when it isn't about just straight away deleting post. What is way more impactful actually is just not showing your post to anyone, right? If then you're just shouting into the digital void, with no one to hear you. Um, or perhaps it's even quite useful for activists to be online, active online, right? Just liking and signing petitions, without going out on the streets and making any actual impacts. That's maybe another cynical way to look at it. But then I think for activists in the global south, there are very more fundamental challenges that are about not even having stable internet, just using 3G, not having access to Wi-Fi, the internet being away for a few days, or internet going out for a few days, um, and also just having access to a phone, right? I'm very happy that I can sit behind my laptop doing this live stream right now. But for most activists in this world, actually, they don't have a laptop. They only have a phone. And that means that many of the tools that are developed, many apps, they can't really use, because they only have a phone, which is often also, doesn't have a very strong processor. So yeah, I mean, those are some major challenges that activists are facing around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also indeed relatable to quite some of our volunteers. Um, yeah, can you tell maybe a bit more about what you think that the role of Activist Handbook is in addressing these challenges?
Yeah, actually, you said like you said, also this also impacts our own volunteers, right? So, for example, we are organizing the International Rebel Assembly in July, um, And the reason that we're doing this is because we want to have activists from around the world share their experiences with change making, because activism it's different in every country, right? And we want to make sure that the guides that we write are actually useful for activists around the world in all of these different local contexts. So yeah, that's why we're organizing this International Rebel Assembly, right? But this comes with major challenges, like some of the coordinators of our hubs not having access to good internet, and this makes it a lot more challenging for us and for them especially to participate in the event. To be aware of what's going on, to collaborate internationally. So yeah, we're trying to find all sorts of creative solutions so that we can still do this. And I think what was your question again? What is the role of Activist Handbook in addressing these challenges?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so Activist Handbook, it's not just a website or a handbook, right? It's, I think, an organization that builds innovative digital tools that help activists around the world organize better. And with our main platform, activisthandbook.org, we try to do this by providing a way for activists around the world to exchange knowledge on change making. And we've built this platform with the idea that no matter what country you're from or what language you speak, you should be able to find guides that are useful in your local context. Yeah, so that's basically where we're using this this format that Wikipedia also uses, right? That activists around the globe can contribute to this handbook. Because if you're trying to write a handbook that addresses all of the different local context, all of the different skills that you need, and then also translated in all different languages, then obviously you're not going to be able to do that with a small team of experienced campaigners and then ask them to write it, right? So instead, the approach that we're taking is to allow everyone to contribute to this online handbook. In the same way that Wikipedia writes its articles, right? And that way we are able to build this way more comprehensive handbook that's actually more useful for activists around the world. Yeah, I mean that's maybe lots. And another thing that we're doing, so we're using this the search engine analytics to kind of research what kind of questions activists have. Personally, I think this is really cool, right? So we're using certain tools like Google Search Console, SEMrush, Ahrefs, to see what activists around the globe are actually typing into their search bar. And this really revolutionizes the way we write guides for activists. So instead of just writing about whatever we think or kind of guess what people want to know more about, we can actually see per country exactly what kind of challenges activists are facing. And we can also see what kind of resources already exist to answer these questions, right? To see if there's any high quality results that are coming up. And by looking at our own website analytics, we can see which of our articles they deem to be of high quality, right? And which need to be improved. So we can do this by, for example, looking at how long do people actually spend reading the articles on our website. And if people are spending only a minute or less than that, then probably the article is not that good and we should work on improving it. So yeah, quite a few things. I mean, I can keep on talking, but I don't know if you have any other input yourself.
I mean, yeah, I think especially like the last thing you mentioned, that's really kind of fascinating. I've noticed that sometimes, right, in the writer circle, so the team of writers being mentioned some terms. I can't really come up. I don't know if you have any examples of like those terms that are being searched upon which we either write articles or are planning to write articles right now.
Yeah, I mean, just from the top of my head, I wouldn't quite know. But so what we try to do is underneath each article, make a list of keywords that people look up, and write down how often these are searched per month on a global level. And then also we write down how relevant these keywords are. So you can imagine a keyword like climate crisis. It's very general. So lots of people are looking up the word climate crisis. So the fact that many people are looking up that information doesn't mean that it would necessarily be useful for us to write about that. And instead, we should focus on articles that Google will think Activist Handbook is a reliable source for. So, for example, when people Google something like "How do I organize a protest?" For us, it's very important to know how often people look up that versus how do I organize a march, for example, right? Because we can then write actually our guides in such a way that all of this valuable information that we're collecting actually also shows up, and not some sort of other search engine optimized article by a commercial or whatever other kind of organization. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, for sure. I think also useful to mention indeed in that regard is that we try to gather a lot of those useful resources as well, right? So Activist Handbook actually becomes a useful source to find other resources in a more easy and accessible way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the way that Google works, it looks at what websites link to other websites, right? To determine how relevant certain articles are regarding certain topics. So when we collect the best articles on how do I organize protests and link to those on our website, that actually also means that Google will put those higher into the search results. So in that way, by collecting and like selecting which articles are best, we actually also improve the Google search results. But so besides a feature like allowing people to collaborate on our platform and looking at search engine results, we're also doing something else that I think is really cool. We're experimenting with artificial intelligence to do research and to write full complete guides for activists. So this sounds very fancy. It is. So this AI that we're using, it's read over 350 billion words, I think, from all sorts of books and websites, right? So this is way more than any real person could have read or done research into, right? And all the user really needs to do is input a topic and click generate, and then the AI generates it. I don't know, maybe it's nice to show that.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see, Chrome tab. All right. So like I said, you can just type in a certain word, right? So for example, I want to write an article, a guide for activists on how to organize a petition. And then I click generate. And it starts working. And I hope it's gonna work, because like I said, this is experimental, so you never know what will happen. But we'll see. There you go. Okay, so it did work. That's good. So like you see, it will write an introduction, and it has a certain outline of the article with different sections that we've found out that are useful for activists to know about. So this is all written by a computer, right? Let's see what is actually written. So a petition is a formal written request, typically signed by many people, asking a person or an organization to do something or support a cause. Petitions are often used to pressure governments or other decision makers. But they can also be used to call for action on the local level. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like it's written by a human, right? And this is not a text that someone has written before. It's really something new. So yeah, it's good to realize that this is not perfect, the result, right? The articles that it produces are not of the same quality as would a human author do. But when you use a tool like this in your writing process, it can really help you write better articles, right? So instead of only drawing from your own knowledge and your own associations that you have with certain articles, you can actually get inspiration from the works of thousands of other authors, which is condensed into one single article. And instead of, when you start writing an article, starting from a blank canvas, an empty page, you start with a full page, and you work from there. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is really cool, and I can't really comprehend how this is working, because this is really unprecedented, really new. But I can't wait to see where this is going to take us. At the same time, we have to be very cautious with these kind of technologies. We have to experiment with them and discover its limitations, because they can also be used for harmful purposes. You can also imagine people writing other things than guides on how to change the world for the better, right? So yeah, we're doing other stuff as well. We're building a tool set called Rebel Tools, but I think we'll talk about that more later. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really mind-blowing. I was also, we can, if you want, talk a bit more about Rebel Write. I was wondering, maybe you can answer that, how it also works with plagiarism. That was one of my first questions coming up, like if it's...
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, right? Because when a computer gets at the point that it can draw upon the work of other people, which is basically the same as what we're doing as humans, right? You read other stuff and then you write your own things based on that. At what point is it really creative work? But the thing is, like, the words that the AI writes, it's not written before. It really is a new text.
Yeah.
So in a way, it is creative, but then again, it isn't, right? Because it only draws from text. It's not like it's looking out into the world and seeing things and making and drawing conclusions from that. So it's really only learning from what humans have written before. But who knows? Maybe in the future, there's cameras everywhere, right? I mean, I live in Rotterdam. I think this is one of the most densely populated cities when it comes to cameras. Maybe all of these cameras will be connected to an AI in the future, and then, I mean, this sounds very scary, to be honest, but like the AI learns from looking into the real world, or maybe it learns from everything that we do on our phones. And anyway, this sounds like a very dystopian future to me. But I think like we have to acknowledge that we're going there anyway, right? Obviously, we need to fight against that, and we need to make sure that big companies don't get the power to do these kind of things. But they are. So we need to kind of also figure out how can we use their own tools to fight against them. Just like we're using Facebook, right, to reach people for Actors Handbook, to recruit volunteers for Actors Handbook. Obviously, Facebook is a really toxic place, deliberately created to be that way. But it's also a tool where we can actually organize to implement legislation that, you know, limits the powers of companies like Facebook and Google and Microsoft and Amazon. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I think we're also definitely continuing that conversation with Activist Handbook. So, I mean, if you have questions and stuff right now, you can, of course, send it in the chat. But also always reach out to us. And we are, I think, really interested in continuing this conversation. So maybe for other movements, what could they do to address the digital challenges that activists have?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure if we're actually live now anymore. Yeah, actually we are. Just double checking. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, but anyway, what were you saying again?
I was asking what other movements, so what other activist movements could do to help address these digital challenges that activists have.
I think it's important that one, we need to fight against big platforms. We need to power the limits of these big companies, right? But the second thing that we can do is actually take the initiative in our own hands and start building alternatives. Yes, it's an unequal space out there, right? That benefits these big organizations. They have lots of financial resources to build these tools. So, you know, trying to build alternatives, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. We can do that. And if we try to do that as activists, you know, build open source platforms, collaborate between ourselves, teach each other how to build these kind of tools, right? We had a web development course earlier this year, I think. You know, teaching people how to do this kind of stuff, how to build these kind of tools. It's just a useful tool set in your activism life, right? Just like it's useful to know how to paint a banner when you're going to a protest. It's useful how to know how to build a website. And I don't think everyone needs to know how to do web development. But it's cool if a number of activists is able to learn about this. So actually, with Activist Handbook, we're building an open source toolset for activists. It's called Rebel Tools. Yeah, I mean, we recorded a video a while back, kind of explaining what we're trying to do there. Maybe it would be nice to show that video.
Yes.
I will try to share my screen again.
Awesome.
We are developing a web app for activists called Rebel Tools.
It's an all-in-one toolset for local organizers and mobilizers to help grow movements all around the world.
They are professional tools, yet easy to use, and 100% free and open source.
We are looking for tech-savvy changemakers to join our project.
Even if you don't have any experience with web development, we very much welcome you to our team.
We organize workshops where we exchange knowledge on a regular basis. So if you're interested in this project and willing to learn, you should definitely sign up.
Go to activism.rocks/rebeltools and find out more.
So you're still here then? Well, go on, click the link.
I think you were, I love the video. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's I was saying it's very quirky, but it's nice though. Yeah, so like these kind of projects, they're really cool. I mean, maybe actually I can show you a bit more about it to show what it actually looks like. Because of course it's a very nice video, but it's even cooler if you can actually see it working. So this is still a work in progress, right? But basically what this toolset does is it allows movements to grow their movements and to engage their existing volunteers more. So it's very easy for people to sign up for your movement. Either you just fill in your email address if you haven't signed up before for a movement on Rebel Tools, or if you already have an account on Rebel Tools, it's just a matter of clicking join movements, kind of like you would, join a Facebook group or join a Facebook event with some nice animations. Yeah, and I mean, there's some smart, so this box, it kind of adapts to what is, what's your progress, what's your engagement currently within the movement. So if you are new, it will motivate you to sign up for the movement. If you've been a member for a while, it might show you to invite other people for the movement, or maybe to donate. And it adapts to the user, basically. So it's not the same as having a website, because a website is static, right? It doesn't really change depending on what kind of person is looking at it. But we've tried to learn from what Facebook and Google are doing by dynamically adapting what they're showing to their users to, what they're doing with the personalized advertisements, really. To influence you to make a certain action, to engage in a certain action. We're doing the same in a way, but then not to sell you a product, but to motivate you to engage in activism and to get involved in activism. So this page is, you can adapt it as a movement, right? So I can maybe show you, I can change the colors. And then when I see the page, right? Well, I mean, this color combination doesn't really work well. Maybe try to change that. Right. So this is already a bit better. But so it's very easy to use this. It's just like you would create a Facebook page, except that it's not on Facebook, and the tools are not built to keep people on the platform, to get people to click on ads, but instead to get people involved with activism. So the organizers get an overview of all the members. So, for example, here, you have an overview of this member, what kind of events they've participated in, how active they are. And you can keep track of, how active they are by increasing their engagement score, adding some notes. Well, this is a bit, okay, this is a note, right? There's also a calendar, right? So you will be able to create events. Yeah, that's just very briefly what's in store. Won't show you much more right now, but if you're interested in learning more, you can actually go to rebel.tools and sign up for the waiting list. And then we can keep you up to date when it becomes available, and you can be one of the first users to test it out. And yeah, we also encourage people to contribute to this project, right? So even if you're not an experienced web developer, or maybe you don't have any experience with web development at all, but if you're, yeah, like we said in the video, right? If you're willing to learn, we're happy to welcome you to our team. Yeah, just send us a message, and we'll help you get started.
That's great. Thanks for showing. I always I love to see those things. And yes, again, so we will also add all those links to the description. And no experience needed. I myself also joined the web development course, as well as some of the just working on Rebel tools. And I mean, it's really, you learn a lot just by doing. So if people are curious by watching this and want to get more familiar with digital tools targeted at activist movements, do you have any resources you'd recommend?
Yeah, so it's good to know that Activist Handbook is not the only one doing great work, right? There's a lot of other organizations creating open source tools or other kind of tools that are not open source but still very, very good for activists. So, for example, Action Network is really interesting. Civi CRM, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's like an open source management tool for membership management tool for movements. And on our website, we actually have a list of all sorts of tools that are useful for activists. Maybe I can share my screen quickly. It's in our digital tools chapter. So we have a whole bunch of tools, right? One that I really like actually is the Photos library. So these are libraries with photos that are available for free. You can, they're usually available under a Creative Commons license or similar. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other ones. So definitely have a look.
Great. Yes, I saw your video being a bit, but I think it's still okay.
All right.
Thanks for sharing. So I think we're coming at an end of this live stream. We discussed some of the digital challenges we face with Activist Handbook, and Joppe showed some cool things we're working on, being Rebel Tools and Rebel Right. Do you want to get involved? We will add the links to sign up as a volunteer, as well as the waiting list for Rebel Tools in the description, together with other resources that we just mentioned now. And thank you for watching. Subscribe to be notified about our live streams and progress regarding Rebel Tools. Here you can also find our weekly update videos on what is happening at Activist Handbook. And hopefully to another time.